Hey my frugal friends, wagwan. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Frugality is life. Thank you so much for stopping in. So today I wanted to talk to you about things that I've done, some of it, and things that you can do if you have a lot of high interest debt. Now I must do a disclaimer that this is not financial advice. I'm just speaking from my experience and things that I've researched and things that I've just picked up over years of my career of being in finance and procurement. Yeah, so I hope this can help someone, but again, this is not financial advice. Okay, so if you have a lot of high interest debt, there are a few things that are out there in the world, on the internet, that you can do. I think, talking about the avalanche method and the snowball method, we've beaten those with a stick. If you go on the internet and you Google snowball avalanche, there's tons of information on how to do either. So if you are not familiar with any of what I'm saying, the snowball method of paying on debt is when you list your debts and you start from the lowest, paying off the lowest to the highest amount. The avalanche method is when you look at the interest rate and you pay from the highest to the lowest. So those are those. I'm not going to go into details on those because we've literally, as I said, beaten those with a stick. So I'm going to give you some advice, things that, well, I just said it wasn't advice, didn't I? I'm going to tell you about things that I've done. Some of it I've done, some of it is, as I said, just from some research and just my background that I've picked up, with hopes that it may be help to help someone. So my background and why I'm talking about debt. I am debt free. I must preface that. Myself and my husband, we have no debt. We don't, our phones and everything is paid off. Our car is paid off. We have no debts at the current moment. But there are times in our lives that we've cycled through thousands and thousands of dollars of debt. And when I mean cycled through, let me give you a little bit of snippet or background into our lives. So we are immigrants into Canada. We immigrated here in 2011. Coming here, I went back to school. My husband worked. And so going back to school, there were a lot of restrictions then with how many hours you could work, all of these things. But we came from Jamaica with a good amount of money because we had good jobs there and we saved every bit of penny. And so we were able to migrate and we said, okay, we can pay our school tuition. We have the money, all that. So coming here, a lot of things happened that surprised us, in the sense where laws changed. We were supposed to get permanent residence and the laws changed at the last minute and our applications were actually submitted but it got returned. Different things happened to throw us off, right? And living on one income, and then with my husband, and then mine that was maybe 15-20 hours a week or whatever I could get, was not enough. And so when we were supposed to get permanent residence and it didn't happen because it was rejected, my husband had to go back to school. So that money we didn't plan for, because we came here with money for me to go to school, not for him. And so we had to pay it on credit card. And so that's, if you know, international tuition is not cheap. If you're an international student in Canada, the tuition is 4 or 5 times what a permanent resident would pay. And so he went for 2 semesters until we got our permanent residence, and then he stopped. Thank goodness, because it was just too much that we were accruing in debt. That was one thing. The next thing is we bought a car that was a lemon, and I have a video on my channel about that, and that got us in a lot of debt too, because the car kept breaking down. We kept fixing different things. It's a whole story you can find on my channel. So that was one other thing. The other thing is that my husband had a truck, and the truck also was giving it issues. This didn't happen at the same time. It's over the years, right? We've been in Canada since 2011, and so whenever that truck went down, the cost to fix it could be upwards of 30,000. So saying that to say this, we've cycled through a lot of thousands and thousands of dollars of debt, plus more things, but we won't get into all of that. So how did we go through all of this and still came out debt free? I'm going to tell you. I think the first thing you have to do is you have to adjust your mindset. When you have high interest rate debts, when you have any amount of debt, you have to adjust your mindset to know that, hey, it's going to take me some time to pay this off. It's not going to happen overnight unless you win the lottery or you come into some inheritance or something. Otherwise, it's going to take you some time. So you have to adjust your mindset. And be patient with yourself, right? Because it depends on the amount of debt that you're going to have. Or that you have, it will take some time to pay down. So discipline, but it also starts from your mindset. So once you adjust your mindset, you can, you'll have discipline. You will know that you have to persevere and persistent, and you have to be consistent, right? So I think that is the first thing. The next thing I think you need to do is write down all your debts, all the lenders, all the interest rates, all the monthly payments. Write them down. Take a clean sheet of paper like this one here and list them. Because once you see them, you know what you're working with. There are people who don't know what their interest rate is on different debts, or how much they actually have to pay a month, or, some people are not even paying their debt. But you see, when you want to get out of debt, then you have to face it head on and just know what you're working with. The next thing you need to do is reduce your expenses. No, we talk about this a lot. Reduce expenses, reduce expenses, reduce expenses. But you have to. When you look at what you are paying out, what money coming in, and this is where you need to get a budget. But I'm going to talk about that later in our discussion. But definitely use a budget, track your expenses, and this will show you what you're spending your money on and where your money is going. Are there expenses that you can eliminate? Are there expenses you can reduce? Call up your providers. I make it like every quarter, I call my phone company, I call like all these internet companies. I call them and ask if they have different promotions, because they do. They always have a promotion happening that you can get on and reduce your bill. Also, if you use a tactic saying, hey, I spoke to the competitor and they are offering me X, do it. You will, trust me, they will be more than happy to reduce your amount, because they don't want you to switch over to their competitors. So do it. It does work. Every quarter, I called my same companies and I use different tactics to get my bill down to where I am comfortable paying. So that's for that one. And we always know that, there are areas that we hit hard when we look at expenses, right? We hit subscriptions, we hit, different things. I'm never one to tell people to sacrifice travel, because if it's something you love and it's good for your mental health, because when you're paying down debt, you still have to maintain balance, right? Because it's going to be a long road ahead and you still have to live your life. So I never say sacrifice what you love, but I always say find a more cost-efficient alternative. So if you're someone who wants to make a big grand trip and you probably want to tour Africa, I don't know, and it's going to cost you $30,000, I would say put that trip off and do a staycation. Go somewhere close, wherever we live locally, you can find things to do just to reset, right? Push that trip off until you can afford it. But I will not say sacrifice something you love that is good, that is contributing to your, the health of you mentally being stable. I'm not going to say that, but I would say find a cheaper alternative, a more cost-efficient alternative. The other thing I will say is reduce your interest rate. Try to reduce the interest rate or the amount of interest you're paying. So the same way you call your providers to ask them to reduce your bill, call your bank, call the lending institutions, and ask them if they can reduce your interest rate. Sometimes they can. You never know. But I would say when you call these institutions, don't use words like bankruptcy or insolvency. You know, some people try to threaten them and like, okay, you know, if I don't get a reduction, you know, I may have to file bankruptcy. I may have to become insolvent. Don't use those words, because some financial institutions, once you use those words, their trigger is automatically to shut everything down and to like block you from your credit in total, like not give you any more credit. Some financial institutions have that, where the minute a customer call them and talk about bankruptcy, they go in like fight or flight mode, and so they may shut your accounts out and then send you to creditors, to the credit department, and start to recoup what they can from you. So I would say stay away from those words, because if it's not something you intend to do, don't threaten them with it. Use different tactics like calling to say, hey, you know what, I have this amount of debt, I want to focus on paying it down, but the interest rate is not allowing me to do so. You know, if you have a job situation that has changed the dynamics of your household, someone lost a job, something, tell them these things and tell them that you still want to pay down your debt, but you want to do so in a more affordable way. They are financial institutions that I've heard of that actually stop charging interest for a period of time to allow you to focus on the debt. They're financial institutions that will agree to reduce the interest rate or reduce your monthly payment, but I would say just be cautious that it's something that works for you and that not gonna hurt you in the long run. The other thing is look into balance transfers. So there are a few credit cards that you can get that will offer zero interest over a period of time. So some of them will say, hey, we offer you 6 months balance transfer with zero interest. Take this opportunity to transfer balances in order to focus on the principal versus just paying interest. Interest is what kills us a lot of the time. It's like you're chasing your tail, right? Because the more you pay, the more it's going to interest versus the principal amount, and it seems as if you're never paying down the amount. So take advantage of these zero balance transfer offers and transfer it and focus on paying down more of the debt. Sometimes there are line of credits that also offer a less interest or a lower interest rate. Take advantage of like a line of credit that will give you lower interest rates and transfer the amounts in order to pay down. Like, I'm giving you bits and pieces of things I did. When I was paying on my debt, I didn't know about Dave Ramsey. I didn't know about his teachings. I did my research and I used my experience in finance field, in procurement, and I went to town. But I didn't know anything about, Dave Ramsey or anything like that. I use my own tactics, which is a blended approach of all of these things to pay down my debt, and it worked. Listen, you have to, regardless of who is giving you the advice, even my advice right now, you have to take it and make it into something that works for you. Not everything will work for you. So, for example, listen to Dave Ramsey, for example. Not everyone will follow, the baby steps, how he's recommending, but you take the bits of his advice that will work for your situation and your life, and you put it to work for you, your budget, your life, your family. It's the same here. Take the advice and see what works for you. You don't have to do every single thing, but take it and mold it into something that will work for you and your life. The next thing is home equity. I've heard of people using equity in their house to pay down the debts that they have. I don't own a home, so of course I can't elaborate on this, but do your research. Refinancing. There are institutions that will refinance the debt that you have, the loans that you have, and give you a lower rate. But it depends on where the market is. So if you have a loan, so maybe this isn't credit card, maybe it's more loan, but you never know. Speak to your financial institution and see what they can do. to refinance your loan. So interest rate right now is on the decline, or they've halted where they are. So if you were at a higher interest rate, you can always go back to your lender and ask if there is an option to refinance and lower your interest rate to a more manageable amount, or any reduction is good. And I must also say that when you are getting these reductions, do not reduce the amount of money you are paying on your debt. Do not assume as if you didn't get any of these breaks. Assume that, hey, your expenses were not the interest rates were not reduced. Assume that you didn't get the balance transfer. Assume all these things and still pay that large amount of payment you were making on your debt, or whatever the amount is, still maintain. If anything, you should be increasing the amount you pay, but never reduce the amount you pay, right? If you reduce your expenses, don't take that money and be, hey, I can spend it on something else. No, put it towards your debt. Increase the amount of money you're paying on your debt. Never decrease the amount. And this will help you to get out of debt faster. It does work. I did it. Avoid the debt cycle. You know what a debt cycle is? It's going into more debt when you already have debt that you are struggling to pay. Avoid it. Avoid it. If you want to take that vacation, and let me tell you a funny thing. I was in the car and I heard this ad come on. I'm in Canada, so this ad for this place I guess it's a popular place. So the ad, the guy was saying, hey, I want to take a vacation, but it's going to take me months to save up the money. And the person in the ad said, it's okay, you can go to X institution and borrow the money, and they will give it to you at X interest and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's like the worst advice you could give someone. You don't have the money to go on vacation. You don't have it. You're saying it will take you months to save it. So you're going to go to this financial institution to borrow this money with interest. So you go on a vacation having a jolly good old time. And when you come back, you are faced with paying down this debt that you've incurred at this high interest rate. That's going to take you, if you thought saving this money was going to take you a long time, yeah, well, you're going to wake up to the reality that paying back this loan is going to take you longer because there is interest rate attached to it. Anyways, every time I hear that ad, I just cringe in my seat. It just makes me like, really? This is what you're putting out there? No. Stay away from debt cycle. Create a budget while tracking your expenses. You need to do this. There is no way around this. You have to do this because this will help you to stay and spend within your means. If it's not in the budget, it's not in the budget. Simple. You have to do this. If you want to get out of debt and you need to know where your money is going, what you're spending your money on. You need to budget before you spend. You need to know what income is coming in and where it is going to go before it comes in. So there's no avoiding this. This is an absolute must. You must create a budget. You must track your expenses in some way or form because this is going to help you. This will. And number 10, never just pay the minimum. Regardless if you're doing the snowball, the avalanche, I believe, this is my thought, this is my opinion. Even when you are doing the dead snowball and the avalanche method, do not pay the minimum. No. Even if you pay $10 more, $5 more, $20 more over the minimum, it's better than paying the minimum balance. This is my opinion. I have done it and it worked for me. I stayed away from the minimum balance. Regardless of what I was doing, I was not paying that minimum. I shut my eyes blind to that minimum that comes on the statement that says, oh, minimum amount. But you know what I open my eyes to? You know, when they tell you if you pay the minimum amount, they always have a little blurb saying, if you pay the minimum amount, this is how long it will take you to pay off the debt. Look at that. Look at that amount. It's gonna take you so many years. But I know you're working on your avalanche, or I know you're working on your snowball method, and you're like, hey, I'm gonna get to it eventually. But listen, when you get to it, you don't want it to be still a human. You want to still be chipping down those amounts, even when you get to it. Even though you're paying down the smaller and you're going to get to the higher, or whatever option you choose, you still want those other debts to be reducing. Because when you get to it, you want it to be at a lower amount. So this is my advice. Never pay the minimum. Even a little bit above is good. Is better than paying the minimum. Now, this being said, these are my opinions, things that I've researched, things that I've done, some of it, in order to be debt-free today. And it absolutely works. So, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you left your $sign in the comment section below so I know you were here. If you haven't subscribed, please do. I would really appreciate your support. And if you think there's someone out there that would love to hear this message and get these tips and put them to good use, please share my video. Until next time, keep budgeting, stay frugal, and walk good. Bye.